I've been working on this elephant drawing for a couple of weeks now, and I thought it would be a really good opportunity to dive into how the techniques I use have evolved. And currently, it's in a really good space. I'm really enjoying the method. I think that the best way to describe it is the hard or soft method. And so I'm going to dive closer into the way that I draw and the reasons why I work the way that I do. Also, I'm really grateful to have a sponsor for this video, Squarespace, but I'll tell you more about them later. The main goal behind this method is simple. We want to be able to get dark graphite values while still being able to get highlights back out from even the darkest areas. This is not a simple goal at all. Most of the time when we draw, we get tone by pressing harder or softer with a pencil. The harder we press, the more graphite it pushes into the paper, the less white of the paper shows through, and the darker the tone. Now, if we want to try and erase that graphite, the paper has been pushed flat, leaving textured marks, but also having embedded the graphite into the paper, making it impossible to erase it back out again. The simple solution is to work in a way that we don't need to press as hard. Not as simple as it sounds. The trick is to preserve the texture of the paper underneath the graphite. Instead of pressing the pencil hard and flattening those tiny paper fibers, making the surface smooth and shiny, we're aiming to layer the graphite gently, almost massaging it into the grain of the paper. Why are we doing it this way? Because when we treat the paper this way, the graphite sits a bit loosely in the pores of the paper, and we can remove it with some special erasers. That flexibility becomes really important once we start working with both positive and negative drawing techniques, which I'll get into later. The next part of this technique is protecting the paper, and there are a few ways that we can keep the paper's texture alive, and each has its quirks. Cotton wool is one of my favorites. It's literally made of similar fibers to the paper, so there's a nice organic relationship between them. The finish is smooth but still has a bit of grit, which I really like. The downside is that it can push the graphite quite deep into the paper, which makes it harder to lift out later. Then there are makeup sponges. These give an incredibly smooth finish, sometimes too smooth though. It can start to look a bit artificial, almost like it's been airbrushed. They also tend to get really dark really quickly, which can be good in some situations, but the graphite gets really deep into the fibers, which can make it difficult to erase again, which is still not great for the ultimate way that we want to be working. And then there are brushes, and here is part of the method that I've really been enjoying working on over the last couple of years. It's tricky because the type of brush really matters. The bristle length, the stiffness, the density, all of it changes how the graphite behaves and how it gets pushed and massaged into the paper. And I've even started trying to make my own brushes out of my hair at one stage, which is a kind of embarrassing story, but it shows how far I've gone down this rabbit hole. Right now, I'm experimenting with a particular bristle type that gives me smooth tones and is still allowing me to lift the graphite easily, which so far is really promising and kind of exactly what I'm looking for. The trade-off to working with brushes like this is that it takes longer and requires layering to reach those rich, dark values. So I've been working with a bunch of samples and tweaking brush stiffness and length to try and find that perfect middle ground, enough stiffness so that I can still apply the graphite and push it into the paper, but still soft enough that it can erase easily. Now we've got our tools for getting graphite onto the paper smoothly and in a way that we can remove it, and now we're going to explore why this is so useful. If we think of applying graphite just with a pencil as a hard application, then applying graphite with the intention to manipulate it with a brush, blending stump, or cotton wool would be thought of as the soft method. What this does is allow us to work in a way that considers working positively or negatively, Working positively would be applying material, that being graphite or charcoal, to a white background, so the normal color of paper. Whereas working negatively would be, once we've applied a bunch of material, we now want to lift that material back out, revealing the white paper underneath. And this is a way of achieving details, highlights, and doing tone correction. I usually alternate between working positively and negatively. At first, I'll work positively, applying graphite down, trying to capture my landmarks so I know where I am in relation to my reference image. I'll apply a midtone, so I start to get an idea of what the values will be. And then I'll switch over to a negative way of working. So then I'll grab a kneadable eraser or a precision eraser and start to capture highlights or to create marks with the erasing tools. This will also help me get a sense of tone, and I'll start to build up volume, then switching back to a positive way of working, using pencil to enhance some of those darker values in the midtone, and switching back to negative way and alternating between the two, eventually massaging it to a kind of center point where my highlights have a lot of detail in them, my shadows have a lot of detail, and that's when I generally feel that I've finished a section of drawing. Before I end this video, I just want to give a quick shout out to this video sponsor, Squarespace. I've been working with them for a couple of years now and played a huge role in my career, not only in sponsoring these videos and helping me maintain this channel, but more importantly, early on in my career, I was looking for a way to showcase my work and make it easy for collectors to find me and get in touch with me. And I didn't have time to learn HTML and build a beautiful, reliable website. And I found that Squarespace did all of that effortlessly. I never had to patch or upgrade anything. I could register a domain with them and set up an online store. And most importantly, I could design a portfolio and show my work the way that I wanted to. Also, every time I got stuck, their amazing support team helped me out instantly. So if you're looking at building a website, give Squarespace a try. And if you decide that you love them, use this offer code and get 10% off your first purchase. There we go. I hope that this overview of the technique that I've been working on is helpful. I've found it really exciting to draw in this way. I've borrowed a bunch of tips and tricks from all over the place and just kind of combined them all in a way that seems to make sense to me. Yeah, I really hope that this can help you push through any kind of barriers that you might have with your own work. Yeah, let me know in the comments if this is already a way that you work or if this is something that might have helped you. As always, thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.